Okay, let's start this meeting of the Central Coast Regional District. April 23rd, 26th, we operate our services on the unceded ancestral territories of the Heiltsuk, the Wikinou, Newhawk, as well as the Kitasoo, Hehe, and Nulteco nations, and we honor our relationship with these nations. This meeting is being recorded and will be made publicly available on our website. So the meeting is called to order at 09:20. And attending, we have myself, Steve, we have Travis Hall, Ryan Levesque, Lawrence Northeast should be joining us back again, I would hope, and Leslie Herstad. Our first point of business is adoption of the agenda. Can I, first off, I guess if anyone has any questions or wants to add anything to the agenda? Oh, Lawrence is back. Here he is.
Yep, I'm back.
So let's have a mover to adopt the agenda.
I can do that.
All right, Director Northeast and Director Levesque. A first and a seconder, and all in favor? Carried. Now we'll move on to adoption of the minutes. Does anyone have any questions of the minutes from the last meeting?
No.
Don't see any. So can we get a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the minutes? So Director Hall and Director Herstad. And all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. And now we have an exciting delegation to move on to next. I think it's the KPMG financial audit report.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. It's Michaela here again. So I am also your audit partner for the Central Coast Regional District. So really appreciate you having me in the meeting here. I want to start off by saying a huge thank you to Denny and the team, and you guys did an amazing job, and I always really appreciate the transparency when we come in as auditors. I know it's a lot of work, and you guys are growing and having a lot more transactions to have to audit, so really appreciate how much effort you guys put into making sure everything's reconciled and recorded appropriately. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to go through a presentation of the financial statements. I do have a copy of the full set of financial statements as well if we need to go into it any further, but they've been summarized here on the presentation I'm about to share with you. All right, I'm going to go through the auditor's report, and then I'll go into the details of the numbers of the financials and go through a few highlights at the end, and happy to take questions. So KPMG is issuing a clean audit opinion for the consolidated financial statements of the CCRD for December 31, 2025. The regional district is preparing their financial statements in accordance with the Canadian Public Sector Accounting Standards. These financial statements do belong to management and those charged with governance. KPMG did come in and on a sample basis and using materiality, reviewed all the bank accounts, the revenue, the expenses on a sample basis, and the assets and liabilities of CCRD, and we didn't note anything materially misstated. In terms of the audited consolidated financial statements, so I'm going to go through the statement of financial position. Again, this is that snapshot right at December 31st of the assets and liabilities of the regional district. On that first line there is cash and cash equivalents. This is all the bank accounts of CCRD. This year for December 31, it was sitting at 2.8 million compared to 10.1 million in the previous year. So there is a reduction of about 7.3 million in the cash accounts this year. This is as a result of a couple items. One, there was some investments that were moved over into the investment line that we're going to see here shortly. So there was about 2.2 million transferred to that account, to those accounts, the investment accounts. And a very heavy, significant year for capital purchases. So about 9 million was spent on capital this year. As you guys know, you have a number of projects on the go for capital. So very cash intensive. So definitely contributed to the cash reduction. The next line is the accounts receivable, sitting at 2.1 million, with just one. Last year was just over $1 million. So these are amounts that are just waiting to be collected. They belong in the December year end, but the cash just hasn't been received yet. And the biggest piece here in the 2.1 million you guys are waiting to collect is the province owes about $1 million, UBCM about 552,000. So there's a number of funders that are included in this total that you're waiting to collect on, and it was to help replace the cash that was spent on the physical capital assets like the pool and the water projects you guys are working on. So once that cash is received, it'll top up the bank accounts again by that 2.1 million. Inventories, you guys have a little bit of fuel inventory sitting at 29,000 this year. And as we had discussed, your investments, your MFA bond funds and some term deposits you have in investments sitting at 2.7 million compared to 552,000 the year before. So you can see that the cash moved from the cash accounts into these investment accounts to earn more interest. Total financial assets, 7.8 million compared to 11.8 million in the previous year. And then on the flip side, so all the liabilities are potential repayments that are required from CCRD, accounts payable and accrued liabilities, 283,000 this year compared to 1.1 million last year. So last year there were quite a bit of capital invoices still waiting to be paid, or a bigger one right at year end there. So which didn't exist this year. That's why it's quite a bit lower. Deferred revenues. So deferred revenue is revenue that CCRD has received for very specific projects. And those projects just haven't fully been completed or hadn't been started yet. And so it sits in the cash account, the monies, until it's spent, and then it goes into revenue when you guys need to use it on the specific project. So this year sitting at 1.9 million. Last year there was 3.1 million sitting there. Last year it was cash that was received early for some of these capital projects as well that you were funding. The 1.9 million, the biggest deferred revenue piece here is 1.1 million from the province for landfill expenditures that you guys still have for future expenditures. The next line is what's called the asset retirement obligation. It's sitting at almost 3.3 million. And so that is mainly the obligation for the landfill cleanup eventually when it's at the end of its life, and as you go through, and then as well a little bit for some hazardous materials cleanup at the end of any asset's life that you are obligated to clean up. So as you guys might remember a couple of years ago, that this liability had to be captured all at once on your financial statements, and so this is a carry forward balance that'll be there until either the landfill is retired and closed and been fully monitored, or the hazardous materials been cleaned up. And then this year there's a little bit of long-term debt for the pool with MFA. So this 257,000 is to be repaid over the next 5 years and must be fully repaid by 2030. So your total financial liabilities, 5.7 million compared to 7.4 million in the previous year. And so if you were to use your financial assets to pay off your financial liabilities, that net financial number is that last line on the bottom there. So if you were to cash in all your receivables and collect everything and then pay everything off and retire your landfill properly and things like that, the net amount is 2.1 million compared to 4.4 million in the previous year. That would be excess financial assets. There's also a non-financial piece. So you guys do have a significant amount of physical assets being a municipality. This is all your buildings, your equipment, everything that you own as a regional district. So the tangible capital assets is that total from an accounting perspective. So this isn't the fair value of everything you own. It is the accounting tracking of the cost that you paid, and then every year some wear and tear estimate expense that gets recorded, which is called amortization. This year, your tangible capital assets sitting at 16.8 million compared to 8.4 million. So a significant increase in your the value in your capital that you own as a regional district. So this year there was 621,000 that was recorded in the expense for amortization. So the wear and tear of all of your physical assets. Every year a little bit has to be recorded for each asset over its life. But you also injected 9 million of capital purchases this year. So the Hagensborg water system improvement phase 1A, that project added about 4.9 million, and the pool so far 4.4 million. So really heavy capital projects. Those were two of the bigger ones. So you can see that your financial assets reduced, but it was put into, it wasn't just, you know, I guess spent. It wasn't spent on operating, it was spent on capital. So so the value is sitting here in this non-financial assets statement piece here. Prepaid expenses, 222,000 this year. There's a deposit there that is for a fire truck that's included in there. That's why you see a big increase compared to the 21,000 in the previous year. So your total non-financial assets this year is just over 17 million compared to 8.4 million in the previous year. So your statement of operations, this is everything that occurred in fiscal 2025. Your revenues and expenses for that year. Budget was expected to be 14.9 million in revenues. Revenue actual came in at just over 10 million compared to 6.5 million in the previous year. And we'll break down revenue a little bit further here shortly in the next slides. But again, this is all the capital monies that are being recorded and coming in. You also remember that there's deferred revenue as well that's recorded on your statement of financial position. Expenses are expected to come in at 17.9 million, and they came in at 3.7, but that's just the operating expenses came in at 3.7. Included in that 17, you would probably have budgeted for your capital spend, right? So you did put 9 million into capital on the other statement. So that's why you see a difference there. Last year, you guys spent just over 3 million on expenses. And so in terms of the annual deficit, or annual surplus or deficit, so on a budget, from a budget perspective, you guys expected to be almost 3 million in a deficit, including all those the capital injection. The surplus came in at 6.3 million for actuals in the middle column, but again, this doesn't account for capital spend, the 9 million that you spent. And so, and then last year, the surplus was 3.5 million. So if you were to add the 9 million and take away the 9 million from the 6.3, you do get very close to what your projected annual deficit was going to be, knowing that you were going to have these huge capital projects this year. And so eventually this surplus will get ground down by what we had talked about, the amortization expense, the wear and tear expense that you guys had about 620,000 of expense this year, but eventually once these projects actually get live and are in use and fully are amortized every year, your amortization expense will go up significantly, and it'll grind down this surplus that's showing here right now. But for now, the surplus carries forward into what we call accumulated surplus. So since inception of the regional district, all the surpluses and deficits get carried forward, including the 2025 year, the 6.3. So it'll get carried forward until such time as you guys incur that amortization expense over those assets once they get used. So your surplus for the year is accumulated surplus carried forward is 19.2 million in the middle of the page there, compared to 12.8 million in the previous year. This statement just shows how your net financial assets went from 4.4 million down to 2.13. And a big piece of this is the fact that your non-financial assets had such a big change. So all that capital injection that you guys added to your regional district. So I'll move on to a few highlights. So I put the 10 million in revenue into a pie chart for you so that you can kind of see what happened this year. So the light blue shows all of the grant revenue that had come in. So 7.2 million. It's a very heavy grant year because of all your capital that you guys have going on. And then taxation is the next biggest piece of the pie at 1.6 million. Investment income is 111,000 for you guys. And then user charges 471 and airport fees and rentals 371. So it's just interesting how the pie changes depending on how much government grants or grants come in for capital. Mm-hmm. Fiscal 24, so this is just a comparison. Last year also, you guys were starting a lot of capital projects, still had quite a bit of grant money coming in, almost 4 million. Taxation revenue was sitting at 1.5, so taxation revenue did go up about 100,000 this year. And then your user charges and airport fees are there. Investment income last year, 113,000. And then your expenses, so mapping out that 3.7 million of expenses in this year with comparison to the previous year. Most departments very much in line with the previous year. General government was sitting at just over 2 million compared to 1.6 million in the previous year. And the biggest change here is amortization. So as you guys get more capital, newer capital that has to be amortized and the wear and tear expense recorded. So to give you a picture of that, so your amortization this year, as we had talked about, it was about 620,000, but in the previous year, it was 235,000. So that $400,000 change in general government was due to a non-cash item, which is the wear and tear on your capital. And so you'll see as more assets come on board and more amortization being recorded, that could shift your general government line because you do include capital amortization expense in the general government bucket. And then transportation also saw an increase this year, so 382,000 compared to 263,000. And again, this is the increase in gas and fuel costs is what anything fuel is what led to an increase in the transportation department's expenditures. So in terms of your capital that we had talked about, so your 16.8 million that you have now in capital value is broken out by the type of expense here. So the Hagensborg water system infrastructure, 5.2 million, and the Parks and Recreation project, now 6 projects sitting at 6.3 million because of the addition of all the pool expended capital expenditures. So that 19.2 million that I had talked about, that was your accumulated surplus. So since the inception of the CCRD, it's broken out into multiple buckets. So it's not all just general operating, free and clear for you guys to spend. So I just showed you a breakout here of what makes up that 19.2 million. So it is in about 6 buckets here. So you do have general operating surplus of just over 2 million. Compared to 2.7 million the previous year. Water has 231,000 compared to 390,000 in the previous year. The biggest value that you have in your accumulated surplus is that value you have in capital. So your tangible capital assets, 13.3 million of that balance is CCRD's value in accounting value in their capital, compared to 5.2 million in the previous year. And then you have some reserves. So you have your capital works machinery, a little reserve there of 6,000. Asset replacement fund went to 430,000. And then you have reserves of 3.1 million that I'll go through here. That 3.1 million is made up of a number of different reserves. So you have your Hagensborg fire reserve is now at 765,000. The water reserve was used up from last year, the 753 for capital. And then your landfill closure, you do have just over 2 million set aside for those costs that need to be incurred, compared to 1.7 in the previous year. Your growing communities fund reserve is now at 325,000 compared to 830,000. You do have a general operations reserve of 37,000 and a parks land acquisition reserve of 9,300. You guys started a landfill operating reserve as well, not just closure reserve. And you also have a utility reserve this year sitting at 7,100. So those all make up that 3.1 million that's included in your accumulated surplus carrying forward. All right, I'll pause there for any questions.
That was a good presentation. And now I know Director Harstead has some questions.
Thanks. Yeah, actually, a lot of my questions got answered during the presentation, which is great. Thank you, Michaela. But one thing I didn't know if it was answered, but under the under accumulated surplus, there was an amount last year that was 2.742 million, and what was my question? Oh, and then another 2.95 million this year. So is that like on top of last year, or is that the difference? Like what? Yeah.
What that amount is? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So last year's general operating was 2.7 million. This year it dropped to just over 2 million. So it's the ending balance. So your 2,095,000 is the actual at the year end. It's not in addition to the 2.7. The 2.7 was last year's amount. So you guys did spend out of your general operating by about the 700 or 650,000.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So still on that page, so we're saying our equity in our capital assets is at 13 million.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets wrote down every year on a schedule?
Yeah,
Okay.
every year you'll have amortization wear and tear because the accounting value will eventually get to zero because you can't keep your assets, over its life, right? So like a building might be over 50 years and eventually it'll go down to zero, which from an accounting perspective, that's just the accounting balance. You know that building could be sold in a fair market value but you guys aren't in the business of selling. You want your physical assets. This is what you want. You want the assets for the people, right? And so it makes sense that you have all of your equity sitting in capital so that you can service your members.
Right. But it's on the other hand, it's also not like a regular business where you would use that write-off on your taxes.
Correct. No, there's no taxation. Yeah. So it just makes the organization aware that every year's wear and tear, eventually it'll get down to zero, but you're going to have to inject, repairs, maintenance, monies like that. So you're just,
And that goes back to the asset retirement fund.
For sure. Yeah. Especially for the landfill, right? You guys will have a big expense at the end. Yeah.
So, and I guess we are investing that money that's sitting there for the next foreseeable future, 20 years or 15 years or whatever it is, and we're in some kind of higher interest bank account or something for that, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your reserves definitely are. I don't know, Yenny, I can pass it to you to talk about the different accounts that you have. You have some investments and you do have your reserve accounts in a higher interest savings, but I'll pass it over to Jenny.
Thank you. Thank you through the chair. Yes, particularly landfill reserve, we actually lock in a little long-term term deposit to generate high interest because we know for the fact that we have a certain window. We know that we have a safe till another like 10 years or so, bare minimum. So we have a plan in place till when we actually utilize those funds. So we have a little bit flexibility when it comes to generate high interest on that.
Yeah, that's good. So we made that was the 111 grand we made then was off of that investment.
It's off of all of your high interest bank accounts.
The total of all the bank accounts then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. No, that's good. And my final last question is, and it's probably more a Jenny thing and whatever, but we have inventory in fuel at the airport, and that would be inventoried at the cost that we paid for it. Are we? And hopefully we're selling it for more money now that the prices of fuel have gone up.
Yes, I can answer the question through the chair. So every time we purchase fuel, we actually revisit our price. So we have a bit of formula how we can generate it bare minimum adequate profit formula. Other municipal airport using similar formula, a certain percentage as a top up for the actual purchase fuel price. So every time we have a fuel purchase, we actually revisit with airport attendant and a manager to reevaluate it. Our cost is still quite competitive, or we have to increase price, or we can just maintain the same. So we have that discussions going, make sure that we're adequately can bring it proper revenue to offset the cost.
Yeah, so I guess that's what I'm slowly getting to is that I think that because the price is changing so quickly right now, that probably before we get a fuel delivery, that probably every week we should be looking at what that price is and boosting it up to cover the extra cost that it's going to cost when we go to buy it the next time. And maybe there's a reason why we don't do it, and maybe Curtis would know if there's a reason why we wouldn't do it that way, or.
If I may, through the chair, I'd probably flag this for a different conversation on a different
Yeah.
days. We're getting
for
kind
sure.
of into the weeds of airport operation, and we can when it comes to fuel sales, I'm sure there's some policies we can bring back through the operations department that would satiate this curiosity.
Sure. All right. So anyone else have any other questions, or we can thank Michaela and she can be on her way.
No questions here. Thanks, Michaela.
Thank you.
Great. So I guess we're a little bit ahead of time. So should we move off to executive reports?
Thanks, everyone. I'm going to head out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Sorry,
Michaela.
Jenny. Yeah, Jenny or Curtis, if someone can let me know if there's a motion to approve, so that we know.
Oh,
when we've
sorry,
finalized. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Okay.
No worries. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And I believe we were going to do that in further down the list. Yeah. So is RCMP still going to be 10:30?
Yes, they are scheduled to arrive at 10:30.
Okay, so then we could quickly go through executive reports and then have a short break.
If we could just do a quick resolution to amend the agenda to reflect that, that would be fabulous.
Okay, can someone make a motion to amend the agenda to move the executive reports just ahead of the RCMP delegation?
Yeah, I can do that.
Director Herstead and Director Northeast. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Carried. Okay, perfect. I'm glad you're keeping me on the straight and narrow.
I'll try.
So Executive reports, I guess I'll go first here, and there's not a whole lot to report other than later on, I think we talk about Ocean Falls and that we had that SOL for Area A and evacuation order, and that's all been rescinded in the last little bit here. So things are looking better. So hopefully we can put that behind us and there won't be any more problems out there. Director Hall.
Hello. I spilled some coffee and water up, acting up here. Hoping it's not drinking me going. Yeah, we sailed into Port Hardy yesterday. We almost did not make it. I mean, well, we were on the third attempt to land, and I heard that if you didn't make it on a third attempt, you have to anchor out until the wind dies down. So yes, thank you. We were able to land on the third attempt. That's the first time I've been in winds that close to what was it, Bear Cove, and it was really rough. So everyone was a bit shaken up by that. Other than that, not really much to add. There's some potlatches going on this week. Families getting together in Bella Bella. My regrets for not being able to make it there. Other than that, big movements with the Language Authority Board. We're passing stuff there to move things forward for the language building. Yeah, can't really think of anything else right now. I'm a bit worried about my computer right now. Thanks.
Is the band slowly getting a handle on the water situation?
Oh yeah, the readings, I guess they're finding a lot of the leaks, or not a lot of the leaks, but enough leaks that the water pressure or the water level is going up. It was constantly at about 1 meter, and my brother was doing the water this weekend, and it's actually going up over 2 meters now in the water tower. So that's a good sign, and they're still constantly looking for leaks. I guess what happened was when we were putting out one of the fires, they kind of imploded a bit of the lines because of the suction. That pump is really, really strong. We had to pump water out of the system into the actual fire truck and then pump it out of the fire truck. So yeah, they're starting to get a hold of that thing.
Yeah, that's good news then.
Just a reminder.
All right, thanks, Director Hall. Director Levesque.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm currently in Vancouver right now, just traveling through. So unfortunately, I was not able to find a printer. So I do have some prepared statements from Chair Kennedy. So I'm just reading from my screen here. So I apologize. I do not see any hands getting raised if I'm chatting. So just holler if you can't hear me or there's any technical issues. So from Chair Kennedy, hi all, sorry I can't be there today. I'm currently in Victoria attending a series of forums, including the Chair, CAO Forum, the MFA AGM, and AVICC. It has been a productive and worthwhile opportunity to connect with colleagues from across the province, share perspectives, and continue advocating for the needs of our region. I'm sending a big thank you to Vice Chair Emery for chairing in my absence, and to alternate director, myself, for representing Area C in my absence. Since our last meeting, the CCRD has received the positive news of 2 grant approvals, which will be discussed further under today's agenda. I'd like to acknowledge and thank all the staff for their diligence and hard work in securing these important funding opportunities. Thank you to all the residents who've taken time to reach out by email. In the past week, I've received several messages in support of item 9.2, partner with nonprofits, and I appreciate the input. The board will support the recommended resolution. I'd also recognize the recent Earth Day cleanup efforts led by Bellicule Valley Tourism and the Newhawk Nation. These initiatives make a meaningful contribution to the health and appearance of our community, and I appreciate the collaboration and volunteer effort involved. As well, thank you to everyone for their work during the Ocean Falls state of local emergency. It is recognized and appreciated. Finally, I'm looking forward to what promises to be an excellent pool season ahead, and I'd like to acknowledge the pool committee and staff, and can't wait to see everyone enjoying our new pool. Thank you. And that's from Jamie.
Perfect. Thanks, Ryan. How about Director Northeast?
How about that? Let me think. No, actually, I don't really think I have anything to report. I did, okay, one thing, I did attend the mayors and chairs meeting online the other day. They ran through planning in that, and as soon as I get the package, I will make sure a copy of it all. It's one of those things where they walk you through the PowerPoint, and it was very professionally done and very efficient. We went through the whole package in about an hour, but of course, 20 minutes. So like, okay, now what about, then you get questions. So my plan is to distribute the questions to you, the package to you. And then, as I said, if you have any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them the best I can, or at least put you in the right track. I guess the takeaway is that any of you that have been, or any of us that are involved in any sort of community emergency situation, you know that sometimes people run off with good intentions in different directions. And so even just the when we were dealing with the flood at Martin Valley, there was disinformation floating around out there, courtesy of Facebook, right? So part of this is a way to, the procedure that the province is proposing or is put in place is to try and make sure the information going out as best as possible be accurate and reliable. So again, I'll when I get the package, I'll send it out to you, and hopefully we don't have an emergency, but if we do, then the key players will know what they're supposed to do, and it'll go better. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Lawrence. And Director.
By the way, sorry, one question. I just wanted to ask a question. Are the birds bothering you guys? Can you hear the birds?
Barely.
Okay.
We can barely hear you.
Oh, I could turn up the volume. That's funny. People don't usually tell me I'm too quiet. Okay.
It's your connection that's not the best.
Yeah.
Director Harstad.
Yes, thank you. In March, I attended the Electoral Area Directors Forum that took place in Vancouver. We get to talk about what matters most to rural communities and regional districts. It was a great connection for me. I connected with quite a few of the smaller districts and made some contacts there. We talked a lot about, there was a great workshop on asset management. So that was great. Other than that, I've had some messages from people from my area about dogs and also about quads on the streets downtown and on Highway 20, roaring up and down the highway. And yeah, I think there's just a few problem dogs downtown that, yeah, I don't think anyone's been bit or anything yet, but yeah, it's a bit of an issue. Maybe we can talk to the RCMP about it. And that's about it, I think. Yes, thank you.
All right, perfect. So thanks for everyone's input there. Maybe we'll have another motion to move financial services, the 6.1 section up into now, and then we should have a break, and the RCMP should be here for our delegation. Do I have a Director Harstad and Director Northeast all in favor? Aye. So we'll move on to 6.1, and it's a request for decision for the CCRD audited financial statements and representation letter to KPMG. And do we have? And I believe it's just a follow up for what Michaela has given us here. Yeah. Okay. So if nobody has any questions, we could have a motion that the Central Coast Regional District 2025 consolidated financial statements prepared by KPMG be authorized and that the draft representation letter to KPMG regarding the Central Coast Regional District 2025 audit findings report be authorized. Do we have a mover?
I'll move.
Director Levesque, and seconded by Director Harstad. All in favor?
Aye.
So it's 10 now. Do we want to move some more things along, or have a break and come back at well, we got half an hour, so what would anyone like to do?
I'd like to keep moving on, and then maybe take a break.
Okay.
15 minutes.
Sure. So as far as Ms. Harding goes, should we move another couple things up? Is that going to work?
If that's what the board wishes, absolutely, we can move things up.
Is it easier to say we would like to move 4.2, the RCMP delegation, down to, I'm just trying to guess how much time we have, but down to 7.2? Is that easier than trying to move the stuff up, or?
6.2, 7.1.
Or if I may, is it easier to have put the delegation on the table and keep working through the agenda as
Sure,
is?
if we can do that, we would. Yes.
I mean that as a question to the corporate officer, not just sorry. I'm trying to see if
we can do that for sure.
So would we need a motion to put that on the table? And
yes, please.
Okay, let's make a motion to put the 4.2 RCMP delegation on the table until 10:30 and move through the agenda. And Director Levesque and seconder.
That's good.
Director Hall is the seconder. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that means we're on to 6.2 2026 Q1 variance report. And Ms. Bjorn is going to tell us everything she knows.
Through the chair, although I don't know everything about it, but finance generally capture most likely most of it. What we actually working on, or what expected to be, or what we will work on soon. So I can start off maybe revenue. Overall revenues are 17% of our budget at the moment. I don't speak too much about taxes or basic grant or nation contributions. Those are actually recorded, and some of them expecting to be received later this summer based on the schedule legislatively admin by the ministry. However, one thing I noted for nation contributions to our landfill, as you're aware that we're in terms of finalize our actual agreement in terms of increased commitment towards our landfill operation through our taxation and from the nation. But their first quarter of the payment recognized, and also we receive it from the nation. I want to note it to the board about that. And our user fees are 15% of the budget. Some of the revenues are scheduled for later days, particularly involve around a lot of recreation programs. The swimming pool, once we start to up and running in our season, we'll start to see more revenue coming in. However, user fee revenue 24%, landfill revenue is 22%. And then we will actually mail out for our water toll annual invoices for both water system scheduled till beginning of July, and also fire toll also gotta be mailed out to constituent at the beginning of July as well. And Community Works Fund, we expecting to receive funding from them probably August and also November per the agreement with UBCM. And there's a several funding that either we defer or recently we receive it. We're Strategic Priority Fund defer from the last year for Denny Island Water. And then even Michaela noted it earlier that we received 2.3 million from the province, and half of them were sitting in our reserve account. Also, we created separate accounts for that and lock in a term deposit to generate interest for that as well. But the remainder of 1.15 is supposed to be utilized for capital improvement projects. So that projects is evolve and then 1.11 million carry forward to 2026. And growing community funds receiving from the province in 2023. And then we've been spending on the Centennial project. We lock in some money on general operating reserve, and we spent some money on the Hagensborg water system. So as a result, that the remainder, $300,000, has been deferred to 2026. And there's a bunch of grant, housing regulatory requirement grant receiving from the province in 2024, the remaining funds available in 2026, and local climate action program. We spend majority of the funding towards 9-month feasibility study, and then hybrid electric vehicle for operation department, also composting unit program. Some of the fund deferred to wrap up a feasibility study, which is already wrapped up in first quarter. The remainder is expected to spending on the additional composting unit program to community members. And there are a bunch of funding deferred. One of them may be a flag for the board that recently board approved direct staff to apply for FIFA community event support grant. And that got approved, and then $44,000 we actually received it from the province. Same as a health promotion project funding program governed by VCH. We also $9,000 received recently. And the grant in lieu of taxes revenue, we recorded in our books. However, we received those funding in January 2027 for the fiscal year 2026. And then there's a bunch of funding layout. Those are generally speaking that we have to spend our money upfront first, and then once the project is complete, we can recover this funding from the funder. So as you can see, we have a lot of grant program actually included in 2026 budget, almost like 47 grant funding actually included in 2026, our budget at the moment. And Community Works Fund, we set aside money for Denny Island water system project. It hasn't spent yet. However, as you're aware that we actually move ahead, and then we're expecting to have a major progress on the water system project that we're expected to complete this year. So we'll see those expenses gonna incur pretty soon. And Hagensborg water upgrade system project, majority work already done by March 31st. So it's still there's some pieces that we have to tie up. So majority of funding from the what we budgeted already expended on the water upgrade system project here. And then we have some regulatory requirement such as source water protection plan and solid waste management plan is budgeted in Community Works Fund. And then we still some of money defer for the OCP from last year. And then the Centennial for short-term loan payment, as we noted it earlier, that we initiated our first we took a loan of $257,000 at the end of 2025. As a result, the board allocated loan payment for debt servicing, and that's progressing. And also $7,300 has been set aside for Tot Dogs purchase. I imagine so that fund will be used soon before the pool season starts. And we set aside some funding for Daniel Airport Infrastructure Upgrade Program. I believe that we'll hear back from the funder soon about this grant agreement for the airport infrastructure upgrade program. And then also the board allocated $25,000 for asset management planning as a part of matching the local contribution to UBCM asset management planning grant. I believe that the funding application expect to be open soon in May. Yes. And we can move on to feasibility study. There's a lot of feasibility studies also budgeted, and we made a progress so far. As you're aware that we're working on actually next generation 911 implementation phase. Feasibility studies already wrapped up the last year. And the area civic addressing initiative also we're in terms of making actually ahead. We're in the implementation phase as well. And the feasibility study for Daniel and Access Economic Development Hub feasibility study has been progressing. And then move on to general operation. Overall, where 22% of expenses has been expended, and director governance expenses are 17% of a budgeted amount. And at the moment, we're capturing here each director's travel budget versus actual. And our professional fees, is audit fees actually at the moment shows a credit of $10,500 because we must follow accrual accounting standard. However, this will disappear when we're receiving all the billing for 2025 audit. And $38,000 has been budgeted for election cost, of which only $900 has been spent on election manual and training courses so far. However, we're expecting to see more spending on the election our second and third quarter. And payroll expenses are 26% of the budget, and professional development expenses are at 29% of the budget. And granting aid, this year, $19,500 has been set aside for granting aid program in 2026. The last board meeting, the board authorized early disbursement to Nation to support New Hawk Earth Day cleanup initiative. The funding already dispersed to Nation accordingly. And economic development service. This year, our economic development officers are very proactive when it comes to apply for lots of grants. So I introduced a little bit of a table to kind of capture snapshots of those projects where we're at and what we spent. And I know that we made a progress on the business facade improvement project. I believe that information report in front of the board for 2026, the facade improvement program in this board meeting agenda. And land use planning. we have a grant money to set aside from the province to meet the new housing initiative requirements, and 75,800 has been deferred to 2026. Also, we have another grant funding funded by UBCM, and also that's progressing as well. Also, this budget includes $200,000 for UBCM Local Government Development Approvals Program. I believe application has been submitted to UBCM at this time. And can move into solid waste management. We're 35,000 has been budgeted for to undertake 2026 annual environmental monitoring memo, and that expenditures will incur later day. Also, we estimated 24,351 for 2025 annual report, and that work has commenced. So we secure a consultant. I believe that they've been working towards to finish up 2025 annual reports at the moment. And I believe also we have a 1.15 million set aside for capital improvement project for the landfill. And the sum of the funding actually will be allocated towards a septic improvements and so on. So here's 18,800 has been spent on the new sewer system. So we're our operation team make a progress on that grant initiative as well. And Bella Coola Waterworks, a lot of things are at the moment has been spent yet. Our annual payment to Nation for water supply will be incurred in August. The rationale is that generally we wanted to wait till we're receiving tax requisition from the province so that it would help us our cash flow. And Daniela Waterworks, we made a progress on the Daniela Waterworks. And as you're aware that also this budget includes potential second intake grant of $2.36 million for Daniel and water construction project as well. Application was submitted, just approval status is pending at the moment. In Hagensborg Water, the first phase of projects is very close to wrap up. However, we recognize there's a slight budget overrun the Hagensborg Water System project, which is we have included a separate report to the board to address this gap in this meeting. Also, this budget include potential second intake grant funding for phase 2, $6.97 million as well. And Parks and Recreation, as you're more aware that we awarded a grant of $902,655 from the ministry in 2022, and the playground installation was complete. However, there's some funding sitting as a remaining balance, $29,368, as deferred to 2026, and that will be utilized for benches and picnic tables and so on, like a park amenities. And also, we awarded a grant from NDIT for skating rink repairs. No expenditure has been incurred to date. However, it's included in this budget and is available for repair initiatives. And Daniel Recreation, $4,363 remains unspent in the program expenses for various community events, including Easter, Christmas, and Halloween. And swimming pool, we still have a $35,000 set aside for water service upgrade. Also tied up some of the final completion of outstanding task of the pool. So that work will be started soon, and it could be funded through the short-term borrowing as the board direct us to borrow up to $400,000. And when we budgeted our loan payment in Community Works Fund, those additional $35,000 already factored that into those estimated loan payment over 5 years. Also, swimming pool budget included $3.68 million for phase 2 of a Centennial pool renewal project. And there's a bunch of stuff scheduled to spend. We believe it will, the expenses incur very soon because we secure pool manager, and between pool manager and our operation team, very actively organize lots of training and make sure that our pool are up and ready for pool season soon. And then emergency management initiatives. Also, our emergency planning coordinator organized lots of grant funding. It's been very busy to wrap it up last year, grant funding, and also apply for a lot of new grant program in 2026. So a lot of the new initiative grant funding we actually approval status are currently pending. One thing I'm going to flag you for the board in here is that, as you're aware, that there was a major event in emergency management service, emergency support services for the Martin Valley flood and landslide emergency response. As a result, at the moment, $146,000 has been spent on EOC and ESS services for that event. And then we're expecting that more additional expenses are coming in very short near future, and the most costs were anticipated to recover through EMCR. And fire services, we awarded $80,000 grant from UBCM, and that funding deferred to 2026 is still available. And also, in addition to that, we were awarded $27,600 in 2026, which also is available for fire department equipment and training in 2026. And Bellico Airport, actually, this is included $2.8 million federal grant funding under the Airport Capital Assistance Program for one runway rehabilitation, as well as other grant funding. I believe that we waiting to hear back from the funder about certain program, and some of them funding might be, we can see that the grant agreement could be executed in very soon. And Denny Airport, majority of the maintenance budget actually deferred from the last year. So $30,800 remain unspent in the maintenance budget sitting in Denny Airport in this year. Then I open floor to the board. I can ask any questions from the board, or I can go back to revisit some of the area that I just skipped through very quickly here.
I think it was broke down pretty good. It's a good little cheat sheet of what's going on in the CCRD.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yanni. Do we want to take well, we got 5 minutes. Do we want to take keep going or take a little 5-minute break? Director Harstead?
5-minute break.
Yeah, 5-minute break.
I'll see you at 10:30 then with the RCMP delegation.
Okay.
So I guess we can continue our meeting, and we have a RCMP delegation, and Sergeant, I'm probably going to say it wrong, Gone?
It's Sergeant Gone, yes.
Gone, okay.
We good to start?
We're good for you to start, yes. Thank you.
Oh, excellent. So for those of you who don't know me, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Sergeant Edward Gone. I'm a junior. Everybody calls me JR. So if you hear JR, that's please refer to me as that. That's completely fine. So yeah, thank you very much for bringing me in today. This is excellent. Finally get to see some faces, and yeah, we can have a discussion. So just on regarding policing in the community. So starting off with a little bit about myself for everybody that doesn't know me. I've been a RCMP member for 15 years. Bella Coola is not my first isolated post. I have a wife. I have one 3-year-old child with me in Bella Coola, and I have 3 more in Saskatchewan from a previous marriage. But yeah, we are finding Bella Coola. It's just absolutely fantastic down here. So very much enjoying ourselves. The community has been very forthcoming, and yeah, we're having a great time down here. My tenure is 2 years here, and in May I'll be at 1 year. So I've been here for pretty much all of last year. So right off the bat, we are the detachment had some ebbs and flows for the past couple of years prior to my posting here, and where we saw a decline in members. But I'm happy to say now that we are running at full strength. We have 4 constables here and myself, which is a full complement of RCMP for Bella Coola, as well as we have a full-time office staff. And I'm looking at hiring a part-time, because we also have a part-time position available. So within, it's just for admin and things like that. So yeah, morale is high here in the detachment, and yeah, everyone's working great together. So yeah, we're blessed here. So that's a good thing. So yeah. For the year, I brought down some stats, because I know everybody likes stats and they want to know kind of, and again, with stats, you can interpret them any way that you want, and I can expand on some of them if you'd like, but I've kind of did what my focus for the detachment has been for the past year that I've been here. So looking at, we're going to talk about the calendar year. So for anyone that doesn't know, calendar year was going to be January 1st, December 31st. My fiscal year would be April the 1st to March the 31st of this year. So starting off with people crimes, we've had 123 reports of people crimes, and out of those, 41% were non-reportable or unfounded, which means basically there was something in the file to say that did not occur. So of those 123, there was actually about 82 actual people crime files. Now, those could be anywhere from assaults to and utter threats. Does not mean that they resulted in charges, but it means that something did happen or was substantiated that it probably did occur. So total crime, people crimes for 2025, the fiscal made up for about 8.3% of our file load for the year. And it's comparative to 6.9 for 2024, which means there was a slight increase in people crimes for the year. So and those can be interpreted in, which, for contributing factors, I'm not sure. So with property crimes, we've had 122 reported property crimes, and out of those, 35 of them were non-reportable or unfounded, which means they may or may not have occurred, or there was something to substantiate that they did not occur. Out of those 122, there's about approximately 87 actual property crime files. So in stats, the total number of property crimes in 2025 made up for about 8.9% of our file load, which is comparative to 9.4% for 2024, which indicates a downturn in property crimes. Although recently, with recency, there has been an uptick. And I don't know if that's because of rural places. I know that I put out a media release in regards to some of the damage that's been occurring at the BC parks and some of those places, with some of the things being vandalized, or, I know there was a lot of picnic tables, tabletops. There was an outhouse that has been taken. But all in all, it is going down. It's trending downwards for property crime. Like, we had 0 over the winter. And now I think because of the springtime, we're going to see an influx of that as people come back to their cabins and things like that. A lot of these files are occurring up valley. That would be east of Hagensborg, where it's extremely rural, and a lot of these places are tucked away. So there is crime that's happening out there. And we've taken initiatives, and we've pumped kind of Crime Stoppers within the community, as well as we've upped patrols in the area. But these things, I'm not sure when they're occurring, and my suspicions are that they're occurring in the wee hours of the morning, somewhere between probably 3 and 6 a.m. is when they're occurring. So we've been working with BC Parks as well, and in regards to, we would like to get some surveillance put out there in this day and age. I know that there is a lot of surveillance that's happening to protect some of these rural properties and some of this infrastructure that's not readily accessible to everybody all the time, right? So we can capture some of these things on tape. We're looking into getting some of our own cameras and working with BC Parks as well to kind of implement those with their permission to put them on theirs. I know there's a lot of there's varying opinions on cameras, but these are trail cameras, and what I'd be looking for is license plates and things like that, of that nature, to try and find out what's going on and when these things are occurring. So if we can tailor our patrols or whatnot to be there at a more advantageous time for us to try and stop some of this. So also another big topic, and it's a big topic in the community, is animal files, more specifically dog files. Our stats for animal files, and we've had 29 animal files last year, in which 23 of those were dog related. 5 are other animals, mostly bears. Only one of those not being a bear, and I think it was a deer file where a deer got hit. Of those 23 dog-related files, 18 of those were aggressive dog calls, with 2 of those calls that resulted in the dog's death, and 6 of those resulting in alleged people bites, most including going to the hospital for precautionary or whatever measures. Out of those, one of those out of those 6 that went to the hospital were rural, meaning, again, up valley from Hagensborg. So the majority of the animal dog conflicts are either happening in 4 Mile or they're happening here in Bella Coola proper. So, and of those 23 files, not all of them are aggressive dogs or dog bites. There's neglect and things like that. So that are reported. So of that, it's also a concern to the nation, and I've been having meetings with the nation as well in regards to, there is no bylaws in 4 Mile as well, but we are working with the band and with the school out there. Actually, Excelsa has been really good to sit in on these meetings, and also a pet rescue clinic that's out of, I don't know if she's out of Lower Mainland or where she was actually from, but we had a meeting last week regarding that too. And the nation is looking at putting a land code in. However, that's a no quick process. So with those bylaws kind of taking a while, we're looking at other measures, what we can do to kind of assist the community in stopping some of the aggressive dogs. Mainly with the dogs, it's we're looking at education, we're looking at funding through whatever funding stream will exist that exists, whether it be a civil forfeiture or a family violence initiative, like wherever that funding stream can come from, to bring in a spay and neuter clinic, promoting responsible dog ownership and things like that, in lieu of having bylaws that will govern that. So I did have discussions on the police's role in these dog files, and unless obviously there's a threat to public safety, we will take action at that point. But there's no infrastructure to bring problematic dogs and seize them or whatnot and things like that. It's mostly kind of working together and finding solutions. So yeah, I don't know if there's any questions that anyone has over any of this that I've spoken about so far.
I guess it's pretty good that one of the main concerns is this: we have to deal with dogs as opposed to other issues.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I've worked in many communities. So, but if it's an issue, it's a big issue here. So, and that's something that we're going to. I've noticed my things are property crime out here. Whether it's still only accounts for not even 9% of our total file load. However, it is a concern. It's a concern in so much that we are taking measures to stop that, right? So it's an issue. I see Lawrence, you have your hand up.
Microphone. There we are. Hi. Thank you. It's what I've heard so far is interesting, and I especially appreciate that the RCMP are trying to be proactive, especially on this dog issue. But you cited some statistics regarding property crime and personal crime against people. There have been some constituents over the winter that have asked me about those two areas specifically as they relate to drug activity and drug use. And I was wondering if you have any numbers on that, like, what percentage of property crimes are related to the drug trade, what percentage of assaults, that sort of thing. The question, what these people have in common is they feel there's been an uptake in that type of activity. So I thought I'd get a comment from you on that.
Yeah. No, absolutely, Lawrence. That's a great question. Yeah, and that's something that we're focused on too. So I think we can safely assume that a lot of property crime is going to be drug-related property crime, because people are stealing to access drugs and alcohol, and there is concerns in the community with drugs and alcohol. It's not to a magnitude that you'd see in other communities, but there is here. We're proactively taking measures, and I've also worked with Williams Lake and with the crime reduction unit out of there, and we actually executed a search warrant as of April. I think it was on the 13th or the 14th. We executed a drug warrant there, and it was actually in consultation with the conservation unit as well. And we ended up seizing illicit tobacco, marijuana, as well as other various forms of drugs. And we also have other things that were directed that we're directing our attention to in regards to drugs. I don't have that specific drug number of how much of our file load is drugs, but it's comparative to, I would assume it would be comparative to the property crime. So having worked on the street and having been in the community like that, I do notice that there is drugs in the community. We don't see it at a level that's as high as other communities here. So
Okay. Just a follow up to that then would be if you could gather some people in a room that had this sort of question or concern, what would you want to tell them? What would you want to communicate to them regarding if they see a crime? I'm thinking especially related to the issue. In other words, what would you recommend for reporting, and what would you like them to know about the process that will follow from there, and even what they might be called upon to do after they've made their initial report?
that's a great question. That's something that we're putting out there with as living in a small community. Everyone knows where I live. Everyone, people know where each other live, right? And there's always a fear of retribution if somebody is going to actually make a report, testify against people. And that's one of the things that we have to overcome, because people have a fear of retaliation. People have a fear of being singled out, or their property or themselves being targeted by these people. So who are doing this? It's a small amount of people doing the majority of the crime here in Bella Coola. One of the things that I've been pushing for is the anonymous. I can't guarantee anonymity if someone was to come to me. So if Lawrence, if you come to me and you say this is happening and you're making the report, I can't guarantee that you won't be called to the stand, right? But if you, there is different channels that we can look towards. Crime Stoppers is a great one right off the bat. It gets people's information. It's valid in court. We can write search warrants to that information, and that person's identity is never known to court. So that's my number one go-to for a small community like this. If people don't want their name on this file, but they want this activity to stop in their community, I'm pumping the Crime Stoppers number, and there's an online thing as well. And if people don't want to report it to the police or be seen in the community reporting and be possibly called to the stand to give their testimony, then that's a great way for them to get the information to the police where we can take action for it. So that would be one of the things that I would do. And I can send you a link to that as well, and some information that would be helpful for people. So along with the property theft, and I've been out in the community and people they have a good idea of what's going on, but nobody wants to say anything. And there's always that fear. So that's where I thought right away we can get them to contact Crime Stoppers, and that would be a good kind of channel for them to get us that information. Because there is a fear of that. You go to the grocery store, you're seeing, you see everybody everywhere. I mean, it's very small. It's a tight-knit community. So
Leslie.
Hi, thank you. The other issue in our community is that quite a few constituents complain to me about is all the quads driving up and down the highway and downtown in my area, on the streets of the downtown area. And I just wonder what you have to say about that.
yeah, absolutely. That's part of my my detachment performance plan too. And that issue existed prior to me getting here. And they said that was an issue with quads going up and down the highways and just in town. So we're limited on our ability to pull them over. Like, we will pull them over if we see them. However, if they run from us, we don't want them to crash, obviously, or try and flee. At the same time, with education, I've gotten all the members here trained, because we own 2 quads. This detachment owns 2 quads. We've been doing proactive patrols out there and then educating the public. We've done a safety talk with the nation as well, and we've gone into the schools, and we've delivered that presentation on safety and awareness, and where to ride, how to ride, make sure you have a helmet on, how to stay off the streets, trick riding, and some of the consequences of, if you get stopped by the police. So we're going at it with, it's going to be baby steps. We are isolated. I know that. And people, you know, they don't attribute it to the same as being in downtown Vancouver and driving a quad down, you know, Main Street. But at the same time, there is rules of the road. And according to the Motor Vehicle Act, you must be 16 years old. Your vehicle must be plated and licensed, and you must have a driver's license and a helmet on. But they're not allowed. They're off-road machines. So there is a education piece that's going out prior to an enforcement piece, rather than come in heavy-handed and have the community in an uproar. So we're slowly putting those messaging out, and we've done some communications with, I found a lot of the youth. So there's a lot of the youth, and the things that I've also seen in my, you know, in my experience too, is multiple people on quads. I've seen bad quad accidents and things like that, relaying to them that, you know, it might not even be their fault. They might be riding down the shoulder of a highway. Someone doesn't see them, right? They're not equipped like a police, or like a car is equipped, right? So that's a very valid concern. That is part of my detachment performance plan. And this year, the main focus was on education. It was getting my members trained on quads through the RCMP, so they know what the rules are for off-road usage as well, because they know the Motor Vehicle Act, but getting them out there and also delivering that education piece. So going at the youth first with some of the student population and getting at them through schools. And then we're going to look at this next year is probably taking more of an enforcement role, right? Because I found that in other communities where we had this issue, once you tow one, it usually calms down everybody and it kind of stops that behavior. But that's not something that I found to be, you know, to gain a lot of traction if you do that too soon. So I'd like to start with an educational piece and then put something out maybe in the paper as well, just now that we're in spring and it's quadding season and people are going to be more out there on their quads and off-road vehicles, to remind them of the rules and to let them forecast it a little bit that police will be taking action this summer. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And that's going to remain as well on the detachment performance plan for the year.
Yeah, thank you. Good to hear, because, you know, it's an accident waiting to happen. I would hate to see one of our youth in the community, you know, maimed or killed, you know, riding quads on the highways at high speeds, etc. So happy to hear what you had to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.
Any other questions?
I will be developing this year's detachment performance plan and some of the initiatives that this detachment is going to focus on. And it hasn't been put together yet. I have until I think the end of next month to get it done. But I'm going to take everything that people are saying here. I know that property crime is an issue. The dogs remain an issue. There is a drug issue as well as an off-road vehicle on the highway issue. Those are the 4 takeaways that I'm seeing just from my year of being here. So if you have anything that you would like my members and my detachment to focus on, please reach out to me directly. I can forward my my cell phone as well as my email and all that. And yeah, my door is always open. I work Monday to Friday and I'm always accessible. So my door is open to you.
Perfect. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
No, it's excellent. So happy to do so. If
Hopefully
there's anything,
sorry.
sorry,
Go ahead.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say if there's anything else, maybe I think I have, Curtis, I have your contact information. Maybe if I send you mine and I'll throw my phone number and my cell number in there too. And if you guys need anything or you have questions, or if you have community members that have concerns that need to be relayed to me, absolutely, I can have a one-on-one conversation at any point. So.
My only real quick last question here is your detachment goes to, say, the dock in Bella Coola, and then I guess Bella because they have a boat, would take over after that, or how does that work?
Yeah, so as jurisdictional boundaries go, we have the water lines. So basically where the ocean starts is where Bella Bella starts. We've had some challenging files in which we relied on up kind of Kimsquit area and things like that, which are not accessible here. So what I've done is I have a great partnership with the Newhawk Coastal Guardians as well as the Coast Guard, so which we've utilized both this year, and both those files turned out fantastic. So hats off to them, and yeah, that's been great. In regards to that, also through internal, and I might not now I will say that I put together a business case too, because I find having a boat in Bella Coola, I don't understand why we don't have a boat here anymore. So I've developed a business case, and we've had that submitted beginning of this fiscal. So April 1st, my boat business case went in and demonstrated the need for having a boat. And I cited some lost boaters, a lot of tourists, a lot of people are on our waters, and the response time, if the coastal guardians are not available, the response time from Bella Coola is approximately like an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that, for them to come out to make it here. So we're very blessed to have the coastal guardians here, and we've worked with them on some search and rescue stuff, and they've been fantastic. And also working with search and rescue themselves, like the amount of amenities here for first response is fantastic in the valley. So that is something that I did not expect to see, and that is it's a big relief, because you can see when things happen that the whole community comes together, and there's so many people here that wear different hats, which is fantastic. And if like with the grizzly bear attack that happened, and it showed the strength of the community when right after that happened. So which is which was devastating to begin with, but at the same time, seeing everybody come together and work together it showed the true strength of the community. So for that, I was very appreciative.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that too often.
No. So, but it's fantastic that I'm grateful that nobody was killed that day, because that could have happened. So
Easily.
Yeah, but it was quite the day. So.
All right. Well, thanks again for giving your presentation.
No problem. Thank you. And please, my door is open for everybody. If you have questions or you want to follow up, I'll follow up with my email and my contact numbers with Curtis there shortly.
Great. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All righty. I wasn't sure if we had to bring that off the desk and put it on it to make it legal, but it happened anyhow. So I guess we're on to 7.1 now.
All right. Do you want me to give a brief overview?
Yes, you're going to give
Sure.
a quick administrative update, I think is what you're doing, right?
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So the organization has been quite busy. We've kind of had several, some emergency events over the last little bit that have kind of had the staff coming together to provide support across a number of different areas, specifically Area A. Corporate admin has been quite busy providing support across all of those areas. Finance has, as you saw, we had a variance report, we had an audit report, so finance has been quite busy. It's also just putting a bow on everything that came from the end of year. So there's a fair amount of things that we have to do both end of year and at the beginning of a new year. So they're doing a great job working through that. The operations department has been working away as well, getting everything moving and filling out some different reports. They've also just note we had a break-in at the landfill where a ladder, some lumber, and some truck parts are stolen. This has been reported to the RCMP, but it's something that has come up. We are liaised with the Newhawk Nation regarding Earth Day. We've moved on one of our action items from some of our solid waste planning into putting a septic system out there, which is great. The pool is coming together quite nicely. So a big thank you to our new pool manager, as well as Ms. Korlak, who's been very helpful in getting this going. Commissioning of the pool happened last week, and we're working on a really nice training program. So we're getting that going. So that's exciting. Other than that, there's some reports on the agenda regarding the Bellicula water system and whatnot. And then we've also had completed some signage around Snootley Regional Park. And there's some pictures there for you. The regional district was also successful in obtaining a effectively $3.4 million grant from Transport Canada to repave the runway. So this is a great initiative and a great project. That's $3.4 million we don't need to raise. So that's anytime we can get one of those, that's exciting. And then there's a fair amount of work that has been going on the emergency operations side. There is some emergency preparedness week fair that is taking place on May 2nd. So I just want to flag for residents. Every year in the spring, we do some emergency management discussion with the community, usually around everything from fire to tsunami to flooding. We encourage people to take part in this. As when these events happen, we can kind of forget about them, and then, we kind of get caught every summer potentially if the road gets closed or things like that. So we're doing some pre-planning, and economic development has been quite busy as well. And there's some reports on the board specifically around partnering with nonprofits, as well as the second phase of the Façade program, where we distribute $20,000 to businesses to upgrade community and public facing infrastructure. So that's it. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to address them.
Leslie. Director Harstad.
Hi, Curtis, I just have one question. I think this was in your report. I hope I put it in the right spot. But you were talking about the water storage reservoir downtown. And where's that water storage reservoir? Is that located up on the hill there, heading towards the dock?
I'm not able to provide you the precise location of where it is.
Okay.
I'm happy to provide that in an email later.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the New Hawk have one, and then the CCRD has one. Is that the situation?
The CCRD looked at a number of years ago, and I'm going to give a quick overview of the history. I haven't prepared an in-depth document on the history, but we looked at a number of years ago putting a water system for the town site.
Yeah.
And that was unsuccessful, but it did lead to the development of a reservoir. And that reservoir is not being utilized. The project was unsuccessful, and it resulted in an arrangement where the CCRD for town site purchases water from the New Hawk Nation system. So we have a reservoir that's not in use, and the nation has reached out to us to explore as their system has, as their population grows, there's strain on the system. They're looking to add capacity. And if we have a reservoir kicking around in a partnership where we buy water from them, there's natural synergies there. So there's some discussions that have come. The board has given us a resolution to work with them. So we are working with them to understand their needs. And this is something that if there is any desire action taken, that will return to the board. But we're just working with them now to understand their needs and see about if that reservoir could be of use to them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, let's move on to the appointment of the chief election officer and deputy. Seems pretty straightforward. Does anyone have any questions about this at all? Then we'll just go straight to looking for a motion that Carrie Lohr be appointed as the chief election officer for the Central Coast Regional District. local government election to be and the local government election to be held in October of 2026, and that Meg Schultz should be appointed as Deputy Chief Election Officer for the Central Coast Regional District Local Government election to be held in October of 2026. Do we have a mover? Director Levesque? Seconder? Lawrence, put your hand up. We didn't hear that.
No, I was seconding the motion. That's all.
Okay, good. You're sketchy on your internet, so it's hard to tell what's going on. I couldn't hear. So we have a seconder. All in favor? Carried. Okay, number 8, we're at the Public Works Transportation Hagensborg Water System Improvements. The Hagensborg Water System Project, do we have any questions about this report? And we can direct questions to Mr. Manson. Director Harstad.
Yeah, perhaps Mr. Manson can just give us a brief overview on this.
One second, we're just checking in to see if he can jump on the call. He was traveling this morning, but he should be settled. You just give me a short minute. I'll
I guess hands wouldn't be up to speed on that question.
He'll be joining us in just a moment.
All right. I wonder if Yenny would know. So if we're going to take 64,946 out of the Community Works Fund, you know, what is left and what did we start with on that in that Community Works for this year?
Through the chair, so those are only remainder funding that the board hasn't allocated yet and is sitting in the budget. The rest of Community Works Fund is fully allocated towards various different projects in the budget. This is not affecting the current any initiatives, anything. It's just at the end of the year that only those amount has not allocated to any particular project yet. So the board have ability to reallocate those funds, but those not affected any other current budgeted initiative in Community Works Fund.
Yenny, can you maybe, if you have it, share just the Community Works and budget so the directors could have the visual of it? We're just getting John on now, so he'll be joining any second.
Yeah.
But I think the visual might help. Would that be helpful?
Yes.
Because it looks like there's going to be over almost $100,000 out of the Community Works funds for the Hagensborg water system. And it looked like the 32,946 was already allocated out of that. Now we're going to ask for some more money but transfer the 32,000 within the budget to fund the well pump repair. If I'm reading it right.
So this is the current Community Works Fund budget. So so this has a many different way to come up with the money. As you can see, there's a bunch of different resolution layout to address those gap overage from Hagensborg Water System Project, capital project itself. Also, we found that the additional funding required for the well repair. So first step, we request the board that allocated this unallocated fund towards Hagensborg water system upgrade. And as a result, those funding already allocated for Hagensborg water system project out of our Hagensborg regular budget can go towards not only address Hagensborg water system upgrade project, also can allocate it towards overage to regular well repair. Because Community Works Fund, even though based on the agreement we're receiving for 10 years with the huge the board discretion, however, as you're aware that it must, generally speaking, has to spend on the capital component. So well repair, we might running into a little gray area. So what we wanted to see is if the board allocated this towards actual capital project, then what we set aside in our regular budget, that money can allocate it to system capital budget and also well repair freely because there's no restrictions on those funding from our own budget. But I will walk you through a little bit at the moment.
That makes quite a bit more sense to me now. So the 32,946 was what we had budgeted beforehand, and now you're able to move that around to pay for the cost of the well pump repair, and now you want 64,946 just to go to the general construction part of it. I think.
Yes. So we have a budgeted in the so it's kind of combined, so it sounds a little bit confusing, but however, we wanted to address those at the same time in this one report. And the well repair, that's a little bit different than regular capital component. So that's why if we realize Community Works Fund towards our regular just address capital budget, that would free up a little bit of room and additional funding from leftover from the capital system budget can be allocated back to well repair. So it's a little complex. However, that will give us more discretion on our end how we deal with this water system services till we stabilize the service, if that makes sense.
I guess the only part I'm having trouble with is that originally it was 32,000, but now we need 64 or 65,000 more or less to cover extra costs. So what is the extra cost that we're trying to cover?
So maybe now that Mr. Manson's on the call, maybe we could get him to give us an overview and answer any questions that you have regarding. Yeah,
that'd be terrific.
Sorry, I was late in getting on the call with technical issues there. Yeah, there's two different components here we're bringing forward together on the project. The first is basically the closeout of what we would consider the capital project, which is the installation of the the wells, the treatment system, the reservoir, and the distribution system. Essentially, all of it being covered through our contract with Hazelwood Contracting and consultants doing their work. So we are now at a point where we have finished the project from a financial point of view, with the exception of the wells that I'll talk about in a minute. The treatment system is ready to be put into service. We did incur some additional costs right at the end of the contract. I'd given you kind of an overview and an update. I think it was November of last year, and then the following month we got into the commissioning and putting the system in service. We had to spend additional funds to get the system cleaned out of organics. So the contractor doing the capital work was available on site, and we made a decision to use them just because of the availability of staff and their knowledge of flushing procedures. So that was probably the big additional cost that we incurred right at the end of the project. So that brought us about $30,000. And I'm sorry, I don't have the report actually with me right now. I'm in transit, but that first overage is capital related, and so we basically went over slightly on our capital budget of approximately $30,000, and the majority of that was incurred in this flushing exercise that we had to do in December. In January and February, I guess the next thing to note, and the report goes into some detail on this. As we suspected, we've got a fairly leaky system. I think the improvement district before and our own knowledge, we've known this. We just weren't able to put a handle on the exact amount. So now that we have a completely closed system, 100% drawing off a well supply, we now have a very good handle on the amount of consumption. So we've been dealing with that. The leakage is in the order of 80% or more of system demand. So it's a fairly significant number. And we've been working, staff have been working at dealing with those leaks. We found 2 or 3 of them already, and we have more in progress being repaired, and we'll continue to do that. So far, most of those leaks have been in the AC, the asbestos concrete portion of the distribution system. As the board is aware, we've made an application for a grant to replace that portion of the system. So going forward, the situation with our leaks will very much depend on whether we're successful in getting that grant or not. At the same time, with the additional consumption, we started to have some issues with the wells. And what we were noticing was that we have 2 separate wells, and they can pump independently of each other up into the treatment system and the tank. And we were noticing that one of the wells was backfeeding when the other pump was running. In fact, they both operated this way, and that's not normal. These well pumps are equipped with check valves. So what's happened is these check valves have failed, and they're allowing water to go backwards. So that's kind of the deficiency, the issue that we need to resolve, and the only way to do that is to physically pull the pumps. As to what's caused that, there are a number of possible reasons. It could be a defect in the manufacture of these valves. It could be the fact that we noticed a lot of sand going through the system initially, and that sand may have caused the valves to fail. So the failure may actually be the sand and not the valves themselves. But we won't know that until we pull them and do a proper inspection and investigation as to the cause. The cause could be a warranty issue. It could be a fault of the well driller. When you drill a well, you develop a well, and that's supposed to get all the sand out of it. So this was an unexpected occurrence. the only way to determine all this is to bring it up and do a proper inspection. So at this point, we know we need to get them fixed and get them back up online properly, working independently of each other. And it needs to be paid. We need to pay these people to do it. We cannot immediately conclude the cause of the failure. So we can't, let's say, go after a contractor or a well driller or whoever if we're able to establish cause. So that will have to come out as we do this work. And so we're coming before the board now to get funding in place. And the estimate for that is approximately 60,000 to purchase 2 new pumps and motors, and hire Fife to come out from Kamloops and pull the equipment, do the inspection, do the investigation. If the pumps that we have there are not fit to be put back down the well, then while they're on site, we will put the new ones down. And then we'll make a decision as to what to do with the existing ones, whether they're repairable or they need to go back to a shop to be rebuilt, etc. So this will evolve as we do the work. But initially, we need approval to authorize these folks to come out, purchase the equipment, and go out and do the work. So that's the additional 60. So the total additional costs that we were facing from November till now is approximately 90, which is the 60 and the 30.
And I guess
I
I'll,
think
I
in
guess I'll
terms of,
just,
go ahead. Yeah.
I said, I guess I'll just throw it out there is why we're not spending, $50 on 2 check valves instead of taking it all apart. Though it is good to know if the pumps are already failed down the hole.
Yes, it's a good question, and we've certainly asked it. Unfortunately, the check valves are at the bottom of the well, so you gotta bring somebody in from Kamloops, and it was about $20,000 to $30,000 to get the crew to come out, pull the 2 pumps, take it all apart. We may find that it's a simple repair, and some of this equipment we can return, and that would be an option that we look at. It just depends on what we find, right?
Yeah,
If it's a rebuild, if we have to do a rebuild, we just think the best course of action, we put new ones down, get them rebuilt, put them back in stock so we have spares, right, for the 2 wells.
Yeah, I guess what I was getting at is put the check valve at the wellhead itself, up on top on the pipe.
We're going to put 4 of them in. We're going to put 1 at the bottom, 1 at the top, times 2 wells.
Check valves.
Check valves, yeah.
Right. So if we're going to put check valves at the top of the well, we don't have to pull the motors out and the pumps.
Motors, we suspect the motors may have failed when they operate in backwards, when they backfeed like that. The bearings aren't designed for these things to run backwards. So I have 2 concerns. I have concern about the well, the backflow disrupting the development of the well and risk of more sand coming in later, because we're basically pushing water against the screen the wrong way. And we can also, we could replace the check valve and then the motor fails. And we already have 2 of them are operating at less than their normal capacity. So that's a signal to us that there's something wrong with the pumps. So with the high cost of mobilization and demobilization, we felt it's appropriate to at least order the equipment. I've checked with the driller. The stuff is returnable if we have a good news situation and we can return the stuff and we feel we don't need the spare at this point, then we can save a bunch of money. But what we don't want to do is pay the mobilization, demobilization twice.
Director Levesque.
Yeah, just a quick question on if there is concern with it being with the actual drilling of the well, is there any contingency or plan for that if that turns out to be the problem? Are we going to be left here with four setups and it's actually the well that's the problem, not the pumps and motors?
I've asked for them. It's a small additional cost. I've asked for them to bring their camera equipment When everything's out, we're going to put a camera down there. We're going to do a complete inspection of the screens, and we're going to do some draw tests again. And if we get any sediment coming in at all, then we'll redevelop the wells before we put the pumps back down. So I have been assured by the well driller that we can do it in the right order so that we are assured these wells will give us proper long-term service as they're designed to do.
Right, and that's part of the well, like the original contract with the well driller then?
Yeah,
That's
it's
not,
part of our, we actually got the proposal, I think the day after in writing the day after I wrote the report. So it's not in the report, but I can, if you want to know exactly what he's doing, I can send that around to the board later today.
no, all good,
It's
thank you.
basically what you're seeing there. It's a $60,000 program, including the initial purchase of the 2 pumps and 2 motors, and then 4 check valves and ancillary equipment to get it all to work, and then the labor for them to pull it and do the inspection, et cetera, including the camera inspection.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want us to do this again.
But so you're saying there could be a chance that some of this would be warranty work?
There is a chance, yes. And certainly, I have told everybody on the team that we are going to be investing in this. We're going to be trying to find the root cause. And that I'm expecting the team to all work together to assist us in that endeavor. So if it can be determined what the cause of the issue is, I've let the team know that we anticipate pursuing that. So I may have some good news at the end in a month or two, but
and they didn't hook the wires up backwards and have the motors pumping backwards.
No,
because that's what they did on Denny Island.
Yeah. Yeah.
Director Harstad.
Yes, thank you. It was a few days ago that I read your report, but I seem to remember, but I could be wrong, that the repair of the pumps is part of the financial ask. But if it turns out to be a warranty issue, we won't need to pay for that repair, right? Because it would be covered under warranty.
Well, we would. I mean, we need to pay the driller to buy the stuff, but we would proceed. I mean, my recommendation would be that we recover the costs if we're entitled to do it, or if the recommendation is that we do it, it might take a month or 2 to get that, but eventually we can refund some of the money if that's the way it turns out. Right?
And my other question was, so are we on the old system right now, or how's
we are running the pumps? We can run them right now, but we have to run them together because we are not going to continue to run any well backwards because it just makes it worse. So we are running them in parallel. We are not getting the capacity that we should be out of them, but we do have a third well, the old Far Hall well, we call it. It's a Hagensborg well that was drilled many years ago. And that's actually augmenting, because of these high demands in our system, we're having to use that well temporarily as a supply. The good news is we have not, since we went off the creek in December, we have not gone back on the creek, and we don't plan on going back on the creek as long as we can provide water through these wells. But I don't want to leave this, we could, if we have a motor that wants to fail and it's on the road to failure, we don't want to wait until it completely fails because we might end up having to open up the creek again. We just spent over $20,000 getting all the organics out of the system, and we don't want to do that again. So we want to move on this fairly quickly to get the 2 wells up and running ASAP.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think just quickly, there's a gap there. In terms of whether it's capital or operating, it's a bit of a difficult one. We've got a brand new set of, 2 brand new wells and equipment. And it may depend on what the failure is. So this might ultimately be okay from the granting agencies if it's an issue as to whether it's capital or operating. I mean, it may be the contractor itself isn't responsible. It might have been the well driller, those kinds of things. But I think it's something we can't really answer the question until we know, what's happened, what's caused the issue. And it's possible it could be a legitimate capital expense. We're calling it a repair. Normally repairs are not, either the contractor pays for it or it's maintenance. This is kind of in that gray area as Yenny had noted.
Thanks for your report, information, etc. Hopefully it works out. I know we'll probably be paying for the whole shot because it's those pumps, unless you send them away, I don't think FICE's going to be taking anything apart to have a look inside. So
No, I definitely will not be doing it on site. That's why we made the decision. We didn't want to risk that. So we want to have the equipment there so we can go in there, do the work that needs to be done and do it with one trip to the site rather than gear up for a potential second.
Ms. Harding had a question.
This is actually a bit more of a note prior to the board reaching any of the resolutions. There is an update for the votes for each of these. Only the first one will be all directors weighted. So if you do decide to move a resolution related to the Community Works Fund, that one will be all directors weighted vote. Any of the others will be service area participants only weighted votes. So just for your information, thank you.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, actually, Philip. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, well, I guess that on that note, we can move along and look for a motion that the $64,946 be allocated from the Community Works Fund budget to the Hagensborg Water System Project, and that the reallocation of $32,946 originally budgeted for the Hagensborg Water System Project be moved within the Hagensborg Water System Water Service budget to fund the well pump repair be approved. And further, that $18,795 be allocated from the Hagensborg Water Contingency Budget to partially fund the additional costs of the well pump repair.
So first one will just be the Community Works Fund portion, and that one is all directors. The rest will have to be in a separate motion.
Oh, did I read it wrong here?
You read it correctly. I
But
had
this
it
is the wrong-
incorrect in the agenda, so my apologies for that.
So we want to do
Just the first section, that 64,946 from the Community Works Fund, if that is what the board wishes to do.
okay, and the reallocation is a separate one?
Correct.
Okay, so let's start again then. So we're looking for a motion that the $64,946 be allocated from the Community Works Fund budget to the Hagensborg Water System Project. Do we have any takers?
Saw Lawrence had his hand up. I can second.
Oh, there you go. Doctor, I'm doing what you do, Lawrence.
Yeah.
Director Northeast.
It's fun sitting in that seat, isn't it?
and Director Levesque, second. All in favor. Pass. And the second one, and that the reallocation of the $32,946 originally budgeted for the Hagensborg Water System Project be moved within the Hagensborg Water Service budget to fund the well pump repair be approved.
I can motion that.
I'll second it.
Director Levesque and Director Northeast, and all in favor. How are we having happy times on the vote, or?
I don't think I can vote on that one if that's what you're wondering.
Who
On that
can
second
vote
part?
on?
I think just Director Northeast and I, correct?
Yeah, just, I guess just you two. So,
Okay.
so you two are happy with it then? And raised your hand and voted yes. Okay, that carried.
We're good.
I guess since you yeah, and so, okay, let's go to the next one. And further, that the 18,795 be allocated from the Hagensborg water contingency budget to partially fund the additional costs of the well repair.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Director Lawrence Northeast and Director Levesque. And all in favor? And since it's all you two all this whole time here. And that passed. All right, perfect.
And the next section will also just be the service participants.
Okay, so we're gonna have to decide whether we want to pay the $7,300 from the Hagensborg water system maintenance budget, or that we increase the user rates to 5.5%. Director Harstad.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, so, because it looks like we're asking for 18,795 for the pump repair and also 7,300 for the well pump repair, both amounts?
Should I answer that? Yep. Okay.
Yes, Mr. Manson.
Yeah, we're funding potentially up to 90,000 here between the two asks, one being the completion of the capital project, which was $32,000, and then up to 60 for the pump repair. I think this is just giving us options of where that money gets funded from, and also recognizing we may not need this. This is kind of a worst case scenario. So if we don't need to, for example, if we don't need that last $7,000 to fund the well repair, then we won't draw on it. But even though you've given us authorization to do that, we wouldn't need to do it because we don't need to spend the money, kind of thing. So it's kind of a worst case. We're setting this up for the worst case scenario where we have to pay for all of the work.
And could potentially some of that 18,795 be returned as well if it's a warranty issue or whatever?
Yes, depending on what the cause is and who's paying for it, and it may be a timing involved in terms of when we get compensated, right?
Okay, thank you.
So to get this straight, right now we are trying to figure out if we want to either fund the $7,300 from the Hagensborg water system maintenance budget or increase the rate by 5.5%.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. Yeah. So we're pretty much look at all the options we have so that we're moving on Community Works Fund. Also, we have just regular contingency budget. Also, we have just regular water system maintenance budget. We're looking at all the options that we could possibly could pull the funding from.
Director Northeast.
Yes. Yeah, I think I'm comfortable making a motion that we go with option 1.
Do we have a seconder?
Yeah, I can second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Ms. Harding, do you have that figured out?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay, good, perfect.
How would you do a tie break?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're into development services, economic development, and land use planning. Information report on the 2026 business facade improvement project or program. And who is that?
I can take that. I'm happy to take
Sure.
that. Yeah.
I
So
wasn't sure if who was looking after that end of things.
so our economic development officer prepared this report, but I'm happy to give a bit of a walkthrough. So this is our second year of doing this. This is one that it's a great program put on by NDIT. So if you sit on the board of NDIT, you get exposed to some of the great work they do. They provide money for local government stacked as a pass-through to inject into local businesses to upgrade. This kind of touches on some of the things we hear about beautifying a community, upgrade public and tourist focusing areas of their business, their facade. So it's a 50-50 match program. So the business has to put up 50%, and then we can grant them up to 50% as well. We're on our second year of this program. So we distributed nearly $20,000 last year to a number of businesses. This year we're doing the same thing. So we're distributing it. We're just reporting out because it is a kind of a feel good thing. It is a wonderful program. The businesses that were selected and the funding that they're receiving and the work that is being done. So this is just an info report, as it is a fluctuating amount. The businesses have to put up theirs and then they can be reimbursed and then they receive 50%. We recommended that the program be managed by staff as that fluctuates depending on each individual business. But this is the allocation for this year, and we hope to wrap it up soon and get the dollars out. And then our intention is to apply every year and inject $20,000 into the region. So this is eligible for outer coast businesses if they want to partake, if they are anybody in the Central Coast Regional District. So it is an open program. We do an open call every year. So if you're seeing this now and own a business and are looking to do some exterior upgrades, I recommend engaging with our economic development officer and reaching out to the CCRD.
And we advertise that before it's due and everything else. So are you saying that it doesn't cover the staff time, or it does have some money towards staff time?
It doesn't have any money towards staff time. We have to manage the staff time and the grant maintenance. On the upside, we are delivering, injecting $20,000 into the community. So there is it's a community service element that needs to be balanced in regards to this program and any others that we undertake.
Yeah, I think it works out pretty good. Thank you for that, Curtis. So now we're on to 9.2, partnering with nonprofits on grants. Are you going to be able to give us a little background around that as well?
I can dive in a little bit. I can give a bit of an overview on that one. That one came from a specific request. We had a nonprofit reach out and request assistance with being a registered charity. So we've taken a look at it, and it's something we can do. We can partner with them to create an agreement that allows for us to administer an area of their grant. So there is a desire from the nonprofit, and I think Chair Kennedy had a few people call her about that. What I will flag though with this one is, with just one, there'll be a bit of a strain because what we're taking on is managing and distributing some of the funds and our back end work. So while it is a good initiative, it does put strain on the organization, and it has a real-time implication in regards to workload. So, the chief financial officer in there just highlights that, with an organization that we have about $19 million in grants that are under administration, as well as now nonprofits looking to have us take on an element of financial administration, that in time, we are going to need additional financial resources in our finance department. Nothing fancy, but at least another clerk in some regard. So I'm just putting that out there that, you know, there is a limit to staff capacity, and we're kind of, the finance department is under strain. So this is something we can do. It is just one nonprofit, so it's not, we don't have a floodgate opening, but it is there is an element that needs to be considered in regarding staff capacity. And maybe I'll let Ms. Bion just comment on the capacity of her department to take on things like this.
Well, I'm thinking about the money as well, that unless there's some kind of, you know, 10% off the top to pay for the staff, then, you know, it's the outer coast and everyone else, taxpayers paying for that too, right?
Correct. There is
Yeah.
not a mechanism for us to necessarily bill the nonprofit. And from some dialogue, and I'll Ms. Bien go, from some of the dialogue is that the pinch that the nonprofits find themselves in is that oftentimes when they get grants, there is a provision of funding in that grant to cover their overhead because they have such a lack of capacity. That lack of capacity funding is about 10%. So the very amount of money that we would probably take would kind of cut them off at the knees. So it presents some challenges, and that's where the board needs to consider if it wants to undertake this, as well as if it wants to undertake these in the future. So, yeah.
Director Harstad.
I'm just wondering if this is a local nonprofit, like, and who is the nonprofit?
I don't recall the specific, if it's not in the report, it came from one request, and it is a Valley-based local nonprofit.
I see.
Yeah.
And perhaps Yenny can answer this, but with the admin fees attached to that, like, yeah, so just, yeah, where's that money going to come from if not from that funding pot? Because, yeah, you know what I mean? That would be my concern.
There
Yeah,
is no
and
money coming. This is just
Yeah.
this is a charitable activity of us
Right,
lending
but-
staff capacity to a
So-
nonprofit.
Right. So how are you going to recover admin costs? Yeah.
If the board wants to do this, there's no recovery. We just eat it. I'll let Miss Bion jump in.
Okay,
She's got her
sure,
hand up. Sorry.
Okay, thank you for the chair, and great questions, Director Herstad. So yes, that's correct. There's no way to recover any admin fees. But this is just also a good opportunity to flag at the board that majority of our grant program approved by the board, either there's capital or some other planning component. Most of them, the admin fees, we cannot recover any kind of admin fees, not only financial services administration, also the project management component from each department, you know, staff to leading that program. Those costs generally not able to recover from the grant funding. So this is something just for the board for flag it. And generally speaking, to look at the lens where grant funding, there's some capacity issue comes with the some of the grant funding program. Like for instance, let's say even though the award amount would be less than 10,000, however, admin costs could be almost it's almost the same as the requirement time to reporting depending on the requirement of the grant program. Sometimes that quite substantial admin work goes with it in order to meet those requirements.
So I guess that would be I would be, if I was leaning to something, I'd be leaning to option 2, but I wonder if what the legal risk is for us.
I can jump in a little bit here. I think that there's probably very mild legal risk, but that said, have not gotten an opinion on this. And if that is something the board wants to explore, you can give instruction to get a legal opinion, and we'll return at a future meeting and a close date to present that information if that is what you need.
So I wonder if there's a way to figure out, an hourly amount. So maybe we'd have, how many hours would a grant necessarily take to administer this? So we would have an idea what, how it would affect our budget. And as like Yenny said, every grant is kind of a little bit different on how much workload there is. But I guess just to have an idea would be of what it would cost us to pass through the money.
We can do an estimate. It's kind of where it's tough. Sorry, where it can be tough is that there's a human element with who we engage with. Mm-hmm. So some people are really organized, and we can get paperwork moving back and forth, and things move smoothly. Other people, we've had instances where we've supported other organizations where 3 years later we're on the phone with the funder, going back and forth on things, and we're not able to recoup significant funds. So some of that is fluid, and we wouldn't know. If the board were undertaking this program in a long-term way, then what we can always do is put together a degree of tracking on time cards, and then it gives us the ability to report out how much time was spent. But even then, that also creates another layer of bureaucratic burden for us to then start tracking a new thing, preparing reports on a new thing. Can be worthwhile if it's an initiative the board really wants to lean on and get some data on. But I see some hands up.
Director Harsad, do you still have your hand up, or is that from before?
I can't remember. I don't think so. I think it was from before, but I don't know. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Director Levesque.
Yeah, I guess maybe like the question I have, and I think this is for Yenny. So like if we have like a capacity problem here where like this is going to be something that happens regularly, like is that something we need to explore? Because I know with some of these grants, like, a $10,000 grant might take, as Curtis said, like only a couple hours because it's very organized from that human perspective. But from like maybe it's a larger one and like 100K, like how does that time correlate to like the potential like community benefit is maybe a question I have. So is that like, if this is something that we are going to pursue, how is that tracking on like the total volume of like dollar values coming in? Because again, if it's these smaller monies of $10,000, like that isn't a great benefit to the community, but you have $100,000 coming in, that does have value if we can get that money somehow into the community. I think that was a coherent question.
Through the chair, if we wanted to know how much workload associated with funding, I would recommend the time tracking would be most valuable option, even though that would create an extra constraint on finance team. Just because sometimes it's not depending on the amount of fund, it's how often the reporting requirement depending on the grant agreement. And also, let's say even the $1 million, if a big project, we might only process 3 invoices to pay off $1 million. That means maybe project management side, who's leading project, that's high risk when we award the contract. However, when it comes to financial administration, it could be a very smooth process. So it's really sometimes hard to determine based on dollar amounts necessarily in finance team perspective. However, if overall, definitely you're right. If a bigger amount is associated with bigger risk, we have to go through a way more in-depth process to select it tender and then go through the tender process, go to the board. So altogether might be a more comprehensive process. But if you look at only financial administration perspective, it's really depending on sometimes what the grant funder wants from us. And also, even though small amount of money, if any reason that we have a capacity gap, we're not able to proceed in timely manner, every audit cycle, I have to prove the auditor that those fundings still valid. We can still budget that amount. So that's associated a lot of a workload on finance to even prove the auditor. So it's kind of more complex, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So we almost need a grant for the grants. Because number one, I don't want to stop these smaller groups from trying to access some funding, because it does go to some good places, but in the end it's going to cost us, the taxpayers, more money. So maybe for now, if we maybe go for option 2, which they would have to come to the board and we would have to vote on each individual one as to their merits, to whether or not the CCRD would take it on.
So just to make sure I'm understanding option 2, so the idea being here is this is each application is like voted on by the board going forward?
Curtis, could you answer that? Because I take it as that everyone who wanted the CCRD's help with their grant would have to apply individually.
So what we're looking at here is if the board looked at this and went, this is a great initiative and we really want to do this, we'd look at it and go, okay, we should probably come back, probably through a policy to have it so that we can have a clear framework for doing it. Option 2, that they need to apply to the board for agreement, means that we do it as a one-off, that we don't open the gates. If you create a policy and say, hey, we're going to support nonprofits, that's a really big thing for us, then every time it comes, it doesn't go to the board. It'll just be processed by staff along certain key guidelines established by the board through policy. So option 2, look. Yeah, so the option 2 is that it's you handle it like a one-off, each individual situation, where it comes forward, you determine on its merits if you want to do it, and then you do it, and it's just a one-off each individual time.
Director Harstead.
Yeah, I just want to say I think it's a great idea to help out local nonprofits, and I'm all for that when we can. But yeah, I'm just concerned about capacity for the staff to take that on. But if we do this like option 2, just like treating it like a one-off instead of spending more admin time developing policy and all that kind of stuff, yeah. So that's what I think.
Director Northeast.
Yeah, I think there's wisdom in what Director Harstead said. I think examining case by case. I know sometimes our meetings are not, timely, but I spent a lot of the last 16 years writing out grant applications for New Hawk College, and it was on me to make sure that I was acting on these grants in a timely fashion. So I'm leaning towards option 2, just continue, if we do this, just offer it as on a case by case basis. And actually, I think that's better. I think we'll see better results going with option 2, because sometimes we have no money and sometimes we have some money, and so maybe we can be a little on a case by case basis instead of trying to set a budget for the year or whatever, take into account staff costs and all that sort of thing. Just looking at it, we can hear we can hear the pitch, we can hear the case, we can ask Denny, hey, where are we? Can we swing this right now? So yeah, I'm comfortable putting making a motion for option 2. Unless I'm missing something. Speak up, guys, if I'm missing something.
I don't think so. Do we have a seconder? Director Harstad, and all in favor? Aye. So that passed. So more or less it stays the same. Okay, we're on to section 10, emergency management. Director Harstad.
Yeah, I just see it's lunchtime, and I'm just wondering if this might be a good time to break, or what are people thinking?
Yeah, I could use a break.
Perfect. All right. So now the hard part. Half an hour, good enough,
Yep.
or do you need a bit more?
Nope, half an hour.
Maybe 40 minutes?
40. Okay. We'll be back at 12:40 then. All right, let's start the meeting on the second half after our little break.
Yeah.
Is Jess gonna give us a report on this Ocean Falls and that?
She has arrived.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Jesse here.
Hello, Jesse.
Are you ready for it?
We're ready for it.
All right. Good afternoon. So before you hear is an information report following up on Emergency Operations Center status from our event that started mid-March in Martin Valley and Ocean Falls. So this gives you a little bit of background summary of what happened mid-March after an atmospheric river dumped 150 to 200 millimeters of precipitation on top of snow, resulting in some significant flooding on Mount Cairo Marion into the village of Martin Valley and into Ocean Falls, and also some landslide impacts as well that had diverted streams off of the mountain and had causing the water to accumulate in certain spots and overwhelming the diversion infrastructure owned by the Ministry of Transportation and Transit. So a lot of this water went through roads and eroding the pavement and side channels. And as the snow melted, started flowing through people's properties and into their basements. So that was mid-March, and as a result, we engaged Urban Systems to provide us with a flood assessment and a response mitigation plan that was brought to the board of directors. But we determined that providing sand and sandbags to support residents with any water diversion and protection of their private property was where our service were best directed. And so we did provide a load of sand and had 9,000 sandbags delivered to Ocean Falls. And just recently, or this week, is anticipated that Dawson Road Maintenance is also going to bring out some extra sand for us to have on standby as for if it's needed now or it's needed into the future. So that will be good because sand is limited in Ocean Falls. Just they don't have the sand pits and aggregate readily available there. So we had evacuations orders go in on March 17th and expanded on March 18th in electoral area A, which included Martin Valley east side of the community and a section in Ocean Falls on the north side of the community at the base of the mountain. An evacuation alert was issued for the west side of Martin Valley on March 18th as well. And on request of our West Trek Geotechnical Services, they provided us a report in the subsequent weeks, and which allowed us to lift the evacuation orders and alerts on April 9th. So right now, as we've moved through the flood and the landslide, we have to determine that there's no imminent risk of landslide. However, landslide risk still exists, and the flooding has subsided. There's still some households that are working on continuing to dry their basements and work on any repairs required, removing drywall that was impacted, for example. So right now, with the evacuations orders lifted, we're working on I guess some of the loose ends and cleanup of any invoices and expenses that were incurred in the response, as well as looking forward into a little bit of recovery proposal preparedness, or preparing for EMCR to see if they will help us support a little bit of recovery actions in the community, as well as an after action report. I think this incident, we learned a lot. In the past, we've done mostly wildfire related, and when you have a wildfire, you have BC Wildfire Service, which brings for lack of better words, the big show. They have their incident command teams and their machines and their trained personnel, and they come out and take control of the hazard. However, in the event of landslides and flooding, that lands on our shoulders as a local government. So there's a lot of pieces that we learned about how EMCR works, and coordination calls and response costs and recovery planning, and also our own capacity as an organization, and asking for support from adjacent jurisdictions like the Caribou Regional District and Williams Lake First Nation, who gratefully and graciously offered a number of staff that helped us immensely move through some of the really initial days of this response, and were immensely valuable. So they were also very grateful to learn as well about landslides and flooding, because they've had a number of their own incidences, but the more that they learn, the better they can do their job, and then we get that support as well. So just bringing together and leveraging that knowledge and operational, I guess, fortitude, which was really great. And last but not least, in the response, both the Ministry of Forests took a look at Mount Cairo Marion, as well as our West Trek Geotechnical Services. And in both of those reports had recommended a more fulsome risk assessment of the area. So we'll also be preparing a report to, or ask to Emergency Management and Climate Readiness for that more fulsome report that will quantify and qualify the risks there, so that we have a better understanding of what we have on that mountain, how it could impact the community, and what we can do to mitigate that, and any risk moving forward, so that if and when we go into another response, if there's another rain on snow or more torrential rains as climate changes and we see more atmospheric rivers impacting the Central Coast, that we are better prepared to respond and recover from these types of incidents. And so that's where we are now, slowing down our operations and cleaning up some of the response activities, and looking forward into the future and how we can continue to support the community of Martin Valley and Ocean Falls in regards to landslide and flood risk.
Yes, that was a trying time.
Yeah, I think we all learned. I think we all learned a lot, and also like learning about what our capacity is. So for sure.
but it's like you say, it's a little different than having a hazard or a risk that you can see, as in a fire, or if you see the flood, you can see the water and everything. But when there isn't really anything happening, then it's hard to get people motivated to see a danger. As in, there wasn't a huge slide that all came down at once and wiped out the whole place, but it could have happened further down the road, and it still could happen. I had one question was, did we find a secure place to put the sand in Ocean Falls when it shows up?
Yeah, I've asked Ocean Falls Improvement District. The first load was put by one of their maintenance facilities, and I have the next load of sand that's going to be brought out by Dawson's is going out in mega bags. And I've asked Ocean Falls Improvement District to store those accordingly, so that the wind doesn't accidentally blow the sand away, so that it's there when needed.
But they're going to be in the bags.
They're going to be in the bags, yeah.
Oh, well, we need to find some place to put them under cover.
Yeah, so I think I'll follow up with Ocean Falls Improvement District. We don't have any facilities, so I'll have to ask them for their.
No, we kind of talked before about talking to Borlex, because Borlex has quite a bit of undercover areas that we could store stuff, and just those mega bags are only good for about 6 months or so before they're useless.
And the sun deteriorate them? Is that?
Yeah, the sun eats them, and you can't lift them. And so when they go to bring them out, the other thing is make sure they're on pallets.
Okay.
Because well, it depends if they have anything to move them with a pallet or like a forklift or something. But because that's the problem is moving them, and they're like good for a one trip kind of deal, and they don't last very long before the handles rip off, and then the sand spills everywhere anyhow. Yeah.
Good to know. Thank you.
I thought the emergency guys were going to pay already for a study of that area. And is that changed or?
So sorry about that.
You were thinking deep in thought and frozen.
Sorry, it showed me that I was on hold. Yeah, no, good question. So on December 19th, so just before Christmas, we had a fairly significant landslide that ended about 200 meters above the households on Highland Drive in Martin Valley. And we had been working on an expenditure authorization or a proposal to EMCR, Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, for the more fulsome risk assessment. But I asked for a larger area than they were willing to fund, and they had asked me to reduce the scope. And we were just in the process of redoing the budgets and the scope of the work when the March incident occurred. So it's still in the queue, and it's ready to go to the province again here shortly. So it'll be the same. However, I think I'm going to go back and show them the full scope again, and the cost difference for the reduced scope, because this it wasn't significant. It was about $5,000 in LiDAR services. So mobilizing work out there is like a larger sum of the funding. So yes, it is ready to go when we're ready to submit that.
Oh, perfect. Anyone else have any questions? And seeing none, we can thank Jessie for her presentation.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
All right. Thanks. Now we can go back or move along to 10.2. And this is the Emergency Management Services contract for this upcoming year. Does anyone have any questions, or should we move on to a motion? Seeing no questions, we can go to the motion that the continuation of the emergency management services contract with the current contractor for the period of July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2027 at a total estimated cost of $78,920 for non-emergency services and travel, with emergency response services provided on as needed basis and subject to reimbursement were eligible to be confirmed. Do I have someone to make that motion? Director Harstad? And
Seconded.
was that Travis?
Yeah, I had to go on my
Okay.
phone. My laptop's messing up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks. Director Hall, seconded. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Section 11, Denny Island Recreation Commission minutes. Does everyone have any questions about that?
Nope.
I can say that the Greekster was the event they put on, and it was a combination from the Chamber of Commerce, the Rec Commission, and CPAC, which is the Parents Advisory Committee for the school, put on an Easter do, and which was pretty fun. They had a separate thing for the kids, and they had dinner at the hall and a beer garden, which was pretty fun. So that worked out good. Section 12, bylaws policy 12.1, Centennial pool scale. Who's going to give us a little talk about that? Curtis?
I would probably direct this either at Philippa or Nicola, if either one are on the call.
Who would be more informed about this?
I'm going to pick on our corporate officer who authored the report.
Well, there we go.
Thank you, Curtis. Through the chair, thank you, Curtis. As we are all very aware and excited, the pool will be opening this year. And so this policy, which does sort of regulate the pay scale and the actual little bit of the what is required for each position, has not been updated since prior to the last season. And so it is with that in mind that we brought this forward, and what it does so more is actually update the positions and what is required for certification and what they are called for each of them. And it brings us more in line with the rest of the province, which is very helpful, not only for us, but for the guards. If, say, they go to university somewhere else next year, everything transfers over that much more easily. And it also helps us keep our wages more in line with other facilities as well. And really the wages did not change that much. And from what Nicola is feeling, from what I understand, she can correct me if I am wrong, is that even though the budget has already been set, we anticipate that these wages and job descriptions will fit in very nicely with what the board has already approved.
Well, that sounds exciting. So does anyone have any questions about this? And I guess it would be the area participants of that service. So Bella Kula. You're good, Lawrence?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Perfect.
Aye. Chihuahua.
So that motion was that policy A-12B, the Centennial Pool's pay scale, be approved as amended. Now we're on to 13.1, Travis Hall, the salmon allocation policy. Would you like to give us a little background there, Director Hall?
Just that the policy, if they do put it through, it's going to close off a lot of areas that the sports fishing and anglers rely on. George Cuthbert had made a comparison, and many people who analyze the economies, the microeconomies and macroeconomies that is affecting, they on average say that, just a comparison, that the commercial fishing industry will put $100 toward the economy, when the anglers and the sports fishermen will put $500 towards the economy. And that's your taxation, that's your purchasing your gear, that's getting out onto the water, paying for fuel. And it employs a lot more people, kind of boots on the ground, running. There's a lot of coastal municipalities like Paul River and stuff like this that are really asking the government just to reassess this, look back at it, make more, do more surveys, I guess, to see how it's going to affect people if this goes through. A number of the sports fishing companies that are out on this coast, out here, will, because the areas are shut down, they'll actually want us to be put right out of business. So it's just kind of just asking them to do a reassessment before they impose such a huge change that will dramatically affect so many people. Just seeking support to move it forward and find like-minded people at AVICC and UBCM, because I know AVICC at least has 2 or 3 districts and municipalities that are going to support it, and it's about, ensuring those jobs don't go away for a while, to reassess before they make such a dramatic change. But yeah, that's kind of what we're doing at the coast, and it's also incorporating Indigenous knowledge, and there's many Indigenous communities on the coast that are utilizing their own guardian watchmen, and it's also about monitoring these catchers and ensuring that they're sticking to their quotas, as well as just making sure that there's no illegal fishing going on and stuff like this. So the big picture, it's nice to have those eyes and documenting the boats and vessels and stuff that are traveling, just to keep a firm or better record, I guess, better assessment of the whole process of the fishing industry, both commercial and recreational and sport fishing. Just looking for some support from the regional district to put that forward, and like I said, support other like-minded coastal communities with regards to sport fishing and the salmon allocation policy. Thank you.
All right, that's great. So you're obviously going to make the motion if you want to read your motion, and then we'll vote.
If somebody else can read it, I just can't see it on this little tiny screen that I have right now.
Okay,
I can read
will.
it if you like.
Oh, that would even be better.
Yeah,
Perfect. Thank you.
There we go. So the motion from Director Hall reads, whereas the Central Coast Regional District supports the review of the salmon allocation policy to update and reflect current allocation priorities and commitments, whereas the review undertaken by the Department of Fisheries and Oceans concluded on March 31st, 2026, whereas concerns have been raised for local food supply, job loss, and economic impact on the coastal region. Therefore, be it resolved that the Central Coast Regional District, through the Association of Vancouver Island and Coast Communities, advocate for more fulsome engagement through further consultation with sports fishermen, anglers, stakeholders, and all First Nations whose livelihood would be affected.
Thank you.
So Travis has made the motion. Do we have a seconder?
I can second that.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Did we get enough votes? Leslie, did you, yes? Yes, okay, yeah, we're
I
good.
think
It carried.
got everyone.
It- Perfect. I guess that passed, so, I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means that, Travis gets to talk at AVICC and do something there.
I guess the process would be to send it to Teresa, and then we can do it from the floor, and we just need a second, I think they're called sponsors at that point, to support the motion off the floor. But I know that the similar one's going to be up there too. I believe that was put on before the cutoff, but we'll see.
Okay,
you.
perfect. Any late items? I don't see any. No committee of the whole, and now we're in the general correspondence. Did we want to talk about the Bella Coola Valley Tourism Grant? Director Levesque?
I think Curtis has his hand up.
Oh, no, well, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the picture's moved around and
Oh,
his
I
hand
see.
is right in front of his face, so, yes.
Thank you, Chair Emery. I just had a quick question in regards to the notice of motion. Is there anything that specifically that staff need to do? Because if it's, you guys are all in town, you're going to AVICC, is this something where you've got it, you don't need staff to do anything? Because I don't want the meeting to be over and staff to go about their jobs and there's nothing specific in there. Like, are we writing a letter or preparing a letter, or is this the directors have this, they'll do the motion from the floor and staff don't need to take any action? I just want to make clear so that nobody's left unhappy.
I appreciate that, and it did bring up a recollection with a conversation with Teresa, and we need 200 printed copies for distribution. So we're talking about the last motion.
Yes.
So who's going to get 200 copies? Is that something that that you're looking for staff support on for the event? And when does this floor vote take place?
I have to look at my.
Do you think you'd be able to talk to Teresa and maybe she has some resources we could use?
I think that was the point that we needed to do it. I remember we put one up in geez, what was it? Up in Whistler, where we had to print up our own. That was for motions from the floor and also running for the executive.
Did she give you a form to fill out to put this in?
She said we can send this to her by email, and then we'll have to print up somewhere the copies. I could probably go to Staples or something if I could just get this email to me.
We can send you the notice of motion and whatever you need.
Okay.
So we'll send. I'll make sure we send that after the meeting. We'll send you the notice of motion, and staff will, take no action. But if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out.
Great, thank you.
Okay, good. We're set then. Yeah, that's kind of why I was asking questions. I don't know what the process is to do something like that. Anyhow, so now we're into general correspondence and Director Levesque, were you going to speak to this a little bit?
I don't have a ton of background on this one. I know in Jamie's initial comment she made, but I actually don't have a ton to provide on this one. So I don't know if we have actually even a motion on it. Curtis, all ready to go.
If I may, Miss Corluck has been a wonderful resource and been really helping us with this. So if she's on the call, she can maybe jump on and guide the board through this.
Sure, I am. Thank you. So the Bella Coola Valley Tourism did their cleanup last weekend and had asked for funding, but the way the policy is written, the bylaw is written, we told them that we couldn't waive their fee. They could access the grant and aid funds if they were interested in doing that. And they really rely on that that grant for other money, and they didn't want to access it for garbage cleanup. So we proposed that they form another organization to apply for grant and aid, which is what they have done. They put a group together and would basically just like to access some funding to pay for the garbage costs at the landfill. And I believe it came to about $500. Where it came from. So essentially that is what they're asking for, is for an early approval of grant and aid to pay for the landfill fees for the cleanup on the upper part of the valley last weekend.
Okay. And we can do that?
Yes, I'm hoping you can, because that was the direction I was given. We can go back to the CAO for direction on that one.
Is Curtis, is that what we're doing? We're going to have a motion to pre-approve the $500?
Correct. Yeah.
If you give me a second, I will tell you the exact amount. I'm just trying to, the landfill official did send it to me.
And did you make up a little sample motion?
I'm just doing that right now.
Oh,
I did.
Yeah, Nicola did provide one, but we'll get one ready for you.
Yeah, they provided. It was $390. They picked up 7.5 cubic meters of loose residential waste.
And Nicola, if you don't mind me asking, the name that we're using is the Bella Cleanup Crew?
Correct.
Thank you. $390?
$390.
Okay.
would
I am ready with the resolution if you would like me to read it out loud.
I would like to have you read it out loud.
All righty. That an early approval of a grant and aid in the amount of $390 be granted to the Bella Cleanup Crew for landfill fees related to the community cleanup on April 18th, 2026.
Do we have a mover? Oh, Director Harstad and Director Northeast.
Northeast.
All in favor? Passed, I believe. Perfect. Is there anything else in the correspondence that we would like to discuss? And seeing no one having any questions, we will now make a motion to adjourn the regular portion of the meeting to move over to the closed portion. And here, can I get a motion to close the meeting for the purpose of consideration of items that fall under section 90, subsections 1, C, D, and E, and I, and a seconder. Director Harstad and
Yeah, sure.
Director Northeast, second. In favor? All right. We'll see you at the next meeting, or